Hello, everybody, and welcome or welcome back to the second shelf and to the second review video of books of the Women's Prize long list. And this time I again will review two books, two debut novels, Homesick and Memphis. I will link the previous video where I reviewed Natalie Haynes' Stone Blind and Glory down below, and I said in that video that I will put books together. So I'm not going to make 16 individual review videos, but more like 7 or 8. So 2 or 3 books will be put together. And the reason here for these two books, they're both debuts and they're both autofiction or autobiographical novels, or however you want to qualify the fact that they are basically about the author's life, family, what have you. Okay, let's start with Homesick by Jennifer Croft. Jennifer Croft is a U.S. translator known for her translation from the Ukrainian, also Olga Tokarczuk translator. She translates also Argentinian Spanish, and this book, Homesick, was first drafted in Spanish for whatever reason. It was then translated by the author into English, and there were pictures. It's about two sisters, Amy and Zoe, and they're coming of age from when they are, really children. Zoe is 3 years younger, so we start when Amy is not even a teenager yet, until later in their life. But anyway, so in the US English speaking language version, photographs were included that Jennifer Croft took from her sister. The picture taking is also an important part of the book. Anyway, and it was marketed as a memoir, published in 2019, I think, or 2020. And then for the UK market and for all other markets except for the US, the pictures were removed, and the book was again, as the author initially wanted, marketed and presented as a novel. So the US version that you can buy and the UK version that you can buy are not the same. And you can easily distinguish, are there pictures in it? US version, no pictures, UK version. So for the Women's Prize, of course, there's no nonfiction, and the UK version is a novel about two sisters, Amy, aka Jennifer Croft, and her sister Zoe, whose real name I think is Marie or Anne-Marie or something. And like I said, we start when they're children. It's short vignettes. It's a really short book, but also written in short vignettes about the relationship between those two sisters, and especially once it turns out that Zoe is gravely ill. She has a chronic illness, and it takes some time to realize what it is and what to do. The children are homeschooled then, and the relationship between those two sisters changes, and Amy is a very gifted child, also intellectually, and from a school point of view, she goes to college when she was then 15. That's when she leaves the home, and the relationship between the sisters kind of, waters, if you will. I really liked the language. I thought it was very movingly described. I'm not, if you follow my channel, you know that child protagonists, no, not my thing. But here it was clear that it was written by an adult looking back at the children, even though it's from the children's point of view, especially Amy's point of view. But it was still well done. It's not my favorite thing, but that's something quite subjective that I just not that interested in, children's point of view. But the language, the way Amy is trying to make sense of it all, her life, but also her sister's illness and the picture taking, what that means, the relationship with the parents. I felt that towards the end, the book for me didn't really know how to end, and so it just ended. That's a pet peeve of mine. Again, if you follow me, you know that I feel that a lot of contemporary authors, don't exaggerate. Some contemporary authors have a good idea and they tell a story, but then they don't know how to end the story. They either do it too neatly, really wrapping it up with a nice bow, or they just at some point think, okay, this is it, the end. Homesick is more the latter. And I felt that was a weakness, but again, it is a debut novel. So I still think it's definitely worth reading, certainly for if you're interested in, reading about the coming of age of two sisters, one of which is gravely ill. Yes, and the language, as I said, for me was the strongest point of the book, and I'm certainly interested in reading whatever Jennifer Croft will put out there, and I don't mean translations, but her own work. I hope she will continue writing. That was the first debut autofictional autobiographical. The second is by a Black Southern author, U.S. American author from the South, Tara M. Stringfellow, Memphis, which is a family history, highly autobiographical in the sense that it's based on the history of her own family. I will not go into the fact that Stringfellow as an author doesn't know how to behave. I will leave a link again if you have missed it. It's just incredible because she is angered at people who have criticism about her book. So I hope she does not watch this video because I did not like the book. But anyway, I will not talk about that. If you want to know more, there will be a YouTube video to see what this is all about, but just the book. I didn't think the writing was very strong. It was very, these kind of stereotypical ways of describing something. But again, it's a debut, and I always feel that with a debut, you have to be more forgiving than with somebody who has written 10 books already and still can't craft, a beautiful sentence. But I was surprised to see this book after I read it on the Longlist, because it's just not very good, in my opinion. It's a family history, like I said, roughly from the 1930s until the early 21st century, 2003, 2004, something like that, going back and forth in time. It opens in 1995 and then switches timelines. It's told from various point of views, all women, some in third person, some in first person. I definitely like, the fact that it's focusing on the perspective of women, and about their hardship, and especially the not so, nice men in their lives. There's a lot of male on female abuse from fathers, uncles, brothers, what have you. The men are very much, in a way, bland, even though they are abusive or just behave in a shitty way. But that's it. That's the focus point. So I felt that was a bit, that doesn't make the characters come alive for me. And the point is a little bit, the fact that a story is true doesn't make it a good story. And in this book, a novel has to make sense in the novel's universe. I feel that maybe she should have written a memoir rather, if she wants to tell the story of her family, because as a novel, it just did not work that well for me. But I have to say it worked for other people. If you look at the reviews also on Goodreads, you see a lot of people who really liked this, the way she told the story. And I felt that she made it more interesting to read by, for instance, switching perspectives and switching back and forth in time. But the core story, yeah, it was like, and I mean, which is weird because it's an interesting premise, and the family, and also the abuse, but the long stretch of time that the novel looks at, you know, from the 1930s until the beginning of this century. But for some reason, and maybe I don't know. I mean, it could be that I was just not able anymore to look at the book with an open mind, because I really, really find the author's way of dealing with readers, disgusting. It's just abominable. And I would have wished I did not know that before I read the book. Maybe then I would have been less prejudiced. That could very well be also a factor. But for me, it was just, an okay debut, in terms of an interesting premise, not very well written. I didn't like the structure, and it just did not really grip me in any way. So 2 more, that makes 4, which means 12 more reviews to go before the 26th of April, when the shortlist is announced. Anyway, thank you very much for watching these 2. As always, I'm looking forward to your comments, especially if you have read any of the 2 books, or maybe are interested in reading it. And I'll see you all soon on. No, I'm not saying that anymore. I'm saying I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.